Welcome back to lesson 8 in our series of tools for the basic wood turnings. We're going to finish up a bowl that we started 2 lessons ago. We roughed it, we hollowed it, and we shear cut the outside to make it as smooth as we could. Now we want to make the interior equally smooth, and I'm going to use a bowl scraper. So the lesson today is about scrapers. Seems like a very simple thing, so did some of the other tools, but there are things to learn. First, let me show you a cut. And then we're going to go back and look at the variations in the scrapers that we have in the classroom and some that have some problems that really need some correction, so we can kind of take a look at that. Make a quick cut, and then we'll go back and take a look at some scrapers. Same bowl, same chuck, same speed. I'm setting this on the tool rest so that when the handle is elevated, I'm looking at where the blade hits this bowl. It's hitting it right at the dead center. I want to be sure when I'm scraping every time that this handle is always elevated above the blade. We want the tools to always go downhill in the cut. The moment we're here and start to move into a positive angle, we'll move into a place where the cut becomes extremely aggressive and the tool will easily overpower the operator. We call that a catch. So we don't want to do that. We're going to put the handle higher than the blade. So for me, when I teach, I suggest on big scrapers, lay it on top of your arm, put your index finger along the side of it so I know where it's going to be pointing, and I have that tool supported. Now look, if it's on my arm, it has to stay higher. This hand is free to guide the tool, to rest on the outside of the bowl if necessary. On thin-walled projects, many times I need the additional support on the outside in order to keep it from chattering and vibrating. So let me make one quick cut. I'm going to go from the bottom up towards the top, which is less aggressive than going downhill. I'm just doing a finishing cleanup cut, so I want a less aggressive cut. At the center, towards the end of that cut, you heard some vibration, and that's because this is thin enough out here that it was doing this against the edge of the tool. So I needed to keep my hand on the outside to dampen that. I went back over that area more lightly, and hopefully I did not leave any chatter marks in here. I look at the inside of this bowl. It looks pretty doggone smooth except for one little spot where some cut marks still there. I'm going to go back over it again. Just touched up that one little area, and if I look at it now, that's ready to sand, and I've saved an awful lot of sanding time by having the inside as smooth as I could get it. I'm not going to lie to you, you still have to go through all your sanding steps, but I also, right at the very end, broke this inside corner just a little bit so that I won't risk putting my hand against it and accidentally cutting. Okay, let's go look at different scrapers and see what our range of tools kind of look like. Here we are back at the table with some scrapers. I want to show you the ones we have here in the classroom that are used. This is the one I originally was just using a couple minutes ago in the bowl. All of our scrapers here are ground with an angle of about 15 degrees. It's just arbitrary. It seems to work well. We also radius the back edge off a little bit to break that corner so we don't get any scratching from the back edge on pieces that are very small. This is a tool that looks very similar. However, it's slightly different. It has a negative rake on the top. In other words, I hope you can see it on your camera, but the top of this has been ground back at about 5 degrees. So we ground the 15-degree angle normally. We turn the tool upside down on the grinder and cut about 5 degrees on it. Not particularly important, but it makes this tool less aggressive and allows us to use this for finishing cuts. In many cases, this works quite well. Same kind of a scraper, but the shape of this thing is designed for going inside small openings like a box. So same thing, 15-degree angle, but because of this curve, I can get it into much smaller openings. Believe it or not, another similar scraper, still 15 degrees. Because this corner here is almost 90 degrees, this is perfect for going down inside a box and cleaning up that edge, going down the side and then across the bottom to have a flat bottomed box. Another 15-degree scraper. This one is almost flat, slightly radiused. It's perfect for doing the bottom of the inside of a platter or plate. Difficulty with long, flat, slightly curved surfaces is trying to get all the bumps out. This one's designed specifically for going across the inside center of a platter and cleaning it. Platter scraper. Okay, these are the ones we most use here in the classroom. This is the one I made, somebody else put a handle on it. Set these aside. I want to point these two out to you because this is the way it comes from the manufacturer. And there's a problem with this one. It's fully round. And in my opinion, because of the way the wood comes around, from the center to the left-hand side, it cuts or scrapes. The side from the center to the right, the wood is going the opposite direction and is providing no working surface at all. So this side the wood comes down and is cut or scraped. This side it doesn't. So this is wasted territory here. It would be better to regrind this to look more like this. This corner here comes back just enough so it doesn't scratch, but all the working is on the left-hand side. Another variation. Difficulty with this tool is this sharp point. All the working surface is in the right place, but the difficulty is that when I go into a bowl, I have a risk of hitting this point against the surface and scratching. So I would like to grind back around here a little bit and make this point go away. Second difficulty, this is a very thick scraper, and because I might put it into a small opening, this back corner, back edge needs to be relieved a little bit. I also brought along 3 scrapers that I use at home. I make a lot of really small pieces, and so the scrapers I use are really small. And the reason scraper size is important, you need a scraper that fits the curve that you're trying to accomplish. So if I used one of these larger scrapers, even if they fit my vessel, they may not fit the exact curve, and they represent a difficulty in trying to get the cut shaped cleanly. So you may have a selection of scrapers in your larder, each one designed to fit a certain specific application. On this one you can see I radiused the back corner again, like I did on the others. And I can flash the light around here a little bit, and I can tell that there's a negative rake had been cut into this. So let's talk about keeping these things sharp. Like every other tool in our larder, they get dull and they need to be sharpened. But there are several stages we can go through, sometimes not even involving using the grinder. So I'm going to step a little bit to my left here, and I'm going to show you one of the easiest ways to sharpen your scraper. I'll just grab any one of these. Well, the one in my hand will be fine. And I'm going to move right over here, and I'm going to show you something else. Well, I changed scrapers. I decided to get a bigger one because it'd be easier for you to see. One of the things we can do is to actually raise the burr on the edge of the scraper. If I'm dealing with softer woods, that burr is my cutting element. If it's harder woods, generally the burr breaks off in the first cut and we're really using the edge. But for me to get this sharp and a burr raised, very first thing I'm going to do is take my card to the face of this, and what I'm doing is making sure that there's any remnant of a burr and that's taken off. I can see a little shiny area right around the edge, and what I've done is removed that burr. Now, high-speed steel, I can push up a new burr on this very easily. I could use the handle of a screwdriver. I could use any other hardened rod that would work, but Veritas makes a device specifically for this purpose. I've mounted Veritas shaper sharpening device on a block of wood. It consists of a pin and a carbide point. And I'm going to put it in the vise I have here on this bench as a way of holding it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the tool against the pin and push it up against this carbide post. And what that's going to do is push a burr back up again. Believe it or not, I could do this with the blade of a screwdriver, but it's not convenient. Just like that, 2 strokes. I can feel the burr on this tool. You can't see it, but it's there. So, to me, that's 80% of the sharpening for a scraper. Can we go to the grinder, match this bevel angle, run the tool around and match that 15 degrees? Absolutely. But most of the sharpening on your scrapers is done by making sure the space is flat. A belt sander, not running, with the tool shoved back and forth across that flat platen, will also do the job. And then to the burnisher, the pin is just simply a lever point. 2 pushes, and that has a burr on it again. Sharpening scrapers. There is a back edge that's been radiused on this a little bit so it won't drag. It's ready to go. Let's go back to the lathe and do one more cut. Back at the lathe, back with the original tool again. I want to make one last cut. I have a tool rest set here. I've turned it inside the bowl so I can get as close to the cutting surface as I possibly can. I've got the tool up on my arm, my index finger goes here. This is such an automatic thing for me nowadays. I can see the dead center of the bowl, so it's easy to know that this is going to be at the right angle. There's that vibration. Whew. When you're eliminating vibration, you go back and make that cut the second time. Sometimes you hear the vibration a second time. It's the marks on the wood that are still there. You've got to cut them away. So expect your first cut to get rid of vibration to sound pretty much like the cut that created it. You're in the process of removing all the ridges. You can see I'm getting really fine shavings. This tool has just been sharpened on that burnisher that I showed you a couple minutes ago, and this is the kind of cut you get. Sometimes I have found students, they leave a little bump right in the center because the tool is a little too high and goes over the top of the center. Sometimes it's too low and it goes under the center, and we end up with a little bit of a projection right in the center. The solution to that is take the tool, put it right under that projection, and literally just drop the handle. That will act like a guillotine. Just cut that off from the bottom up, and that cleans up the bottom. Well, the next thing this bowl needs is a little bit of sanding, a little bit of finishing, but basically in terms of the cutting, other than cleaning up the bottom later on, I'm pretty well done with that. And I've used 2 tools, a bowl gouge with a bevel on it such that I could get to the bottom easily, a bottom feeder, and a scraper to clean up the inside of this cut. So that was scrapers. Next lesson. One of the things we haven't talked about is keeping all this stuff clean and operating effectively. So in the next lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about lathe and chuck maintenance. More later.